I don't know how to program in Node.js, but with the help of this AI, it writes all the code for me. Let me show you how. Let's say I want to make a calculator. All I have to do is type function, and it writes the rest of my code for me. There we go. It was that easy. Let's say I want to make a function that adds books into this database. All I have to do is write async function because I want it to be an asynchronous function. Add books. And I'm not even going to tell it what input parameters I need. I just hit enter and hit refresh here. And in a few seconds, we have all these suggestions from which we can choose our favorite one. In this case, this was exactly what I was looking for, and it made all the names for me. Naming variables can be very hard, but this AI can read my mind and write all that code for me. Too lazy to write the days of the months of the year? Well, not anymore. That's it. Do you need to write a random number generator? Well, that's all that it takes. You might be wondering how all this sorcery works. Well, the answer is Github Copilot. Github Copilot is a joint endeavor between the people at GitHub and the people at OpenAI. OpenAI used their new powerful GPT-3 with over 175 billion trainable parameters to train this AI on public code and text from the internet. It was able to learn all this data, learn different coding styles, techniques, functions, etc., and then it uses the context from your previous code that you've wrote in your editor and tries to complete the rest of your code in sentences for you. And based on its suggestions, it takes your feedback and then tries to improve its suggestions again and create even more powerful suggestions, specifically designed for you and your coding style. You might think that GitHub Copilot only supports like one language, maybe JavaScript, which is the one I demoed earlier, but no, that's in fact not true. It supports so many different languages. In fact, any language you can think of, including plain English, it supports. But it has special good support for Python, Ruby, TypeScript, JavaScript, Go, and Java. Now, of course, if you're writing comments on code or anything like that, it will autofill those, and it has worked very perfectly for me. But it has especially good support for these languages. So I highly encourage you to go check these out and try this for yourself, as it's a very powerful tool for any programmer. Now you might be wondering how this works, and understanding a high-power transformer such as this one can be extremely complex. For example, GPT-3, the AI running GitHub Copilot, has 175 billion parameters. For reference, your brain, your human intelligent brain, has 86 billion neurons. Can you imagine how much more powerful this AI is in terms of raw computation? But it uses something called a transformer architecture, which consists of embeddings, or encodings as they call it, which are simply text converted to numbers. It adds this notion of position using a positional embedding, which basically says, okay, the word the came after all these words and goes after all these words, and in this way, the AI knows where words in the sentence, or in this case code, should be. And then it uses something called a multi-head attention system that basically says to the AI, okay, in this code example, this text right here, api.nasa.gov, is extremely important, but some of these other things are not so important. And in this way, the AI is able to focus on the core fundamentals of the code, and that way it's able to write more efficiently and write more sensible and more useful code for people. This is followed by a bunch of feed-forward networks and a lot of more complicated normalization and prediction mechanisms, which are far beyond the scope of this video. But if you want to see a video specifically on how GPT-3 and other high-powered transformers like BERT work, then like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment down below that you want to see one of these videos so we know to make one. You might be wondering, how can you get access to such a powerful tool like this one? Well, the answer is not quite so straightforward. For one, you have to go to Github Copilot's website, make a GitHub account if you don't have one already, and then you have to file for a waitlist. Now, in this waitlist, people are going to verify how much progress you've made on your projects and on GitHub itself. They want to make sure that people who they give access to are legit programmers who are willing to contribute to this project and write up issues and other suggestions if they have any. Because this GitHub Copilot is still in the beta testing phase, and they're allowing people access to this simply so that they could experiment with it and see if there are any improvements that they can make before this thing goes public. So definitely, if you want access to this, go and apply for GitHub Copilot here. Once you apply, you will have to fire up your IDE of your choice, whether that's a IntelliJ based IDE from JetBrains, Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio like the actual one, Sublime Text, or anything like that. And usually there's going to be an extension for GitHub Copilot. Now, if you just search up online GitHub Copilot extension 4 and then the ID of your choice, usually it will show up. If it doesn't have support, you'll have to find something else. But installation from there is pretty straightforward. You just have to install the extension, enable it, and you're good to go. So I hope this video helps you understand how powerful GitHub Copilot is as a tool and some ways you could use it in your own personal projects. If you like this video, like and subscribe. If you have any other video suggestions or video topic ideas, leave them in the comments below and we'll definitely make a video on that. Until next time, happy AI experimenting!